Good day, everyone. Good day, Dr. Amihan. I'm going to discuss the Philippine Higher Education Development Plan. I am Mr. Paul Joven Alilio, your presenter for today. So here are my objectives. Discuss the brief background of the creation and functions of higher education in the Philippines. Define the programs and projects of the Philippine higher education based on the strategic plans. So let's try to recall the historical background behind the creation of the higher education in the Philippines. Part of a broad agenda of reforms of the country's education system outlined by the Congressional Commission on Education in 1992 was the trifocalization of education sector into governing bodies. These three are the Department of Education for Basic Education, controlling the kindergarten to senior high school, the Technical Education and Development and Skills Development Authority for technical, vocational, and middle level education, and the Commission on Higher Education for tertiary and graduate education. So the Commission on Higher Education is the government agency that controls all public and private higher educational institutions in the Philippines. Currently, we have 1,935 higher education institutions all over the country, wherein 88% are private and only 12% are private. The Commission on Higher Education is an attached agency to the Office of the President for academic purposes. It is headed by a chairperson and has 4 commissioners, each having a term of 4 years. The Commission and Bank act as a collegial body in formulating plans, policies, and strategies relating to higher education and for the operation of the Commission. According to the Philippine Constitution, it is the responsibility of the state to protect, foster, and promote the right of all citizens affordable quality education at all levels. Take appropriate steps to ensure that education shall be accessible to all. It is also the powers and functions of the Commission to formulate, recommend development plans, policies, priorities, and programs on higher education and research. In 1997, Republic Act 8292, otherwise known as Higher Education Modernization Act of 1997, was passed to establish a complete, adequate, and integrated system of higher education. The said law also modified and made a uniform composition of the governing boards of chartered state universities and colleges nationwide in order to achieve a more coordinated and integrated system of higher education, render them more effective in the formulation and implementation of policies on higher education, provide for more relevant direction in their governance, and ensure the enjoyment of academic freedom as guaranteed by the Constitution. So one of the historical events in the Philippine educational system is the implementation of the K-12 program, wherein additional 2 years will be put in the basic education. However, the Commission on Higher Education make some preparation for the transition of the Philippine education for this program. So with this, the Commission issued the Memorandum Order Number 33, Series of 2016, entitled Guidelines for the Institutional Development for Innovation Grants under the K-12 transition program. This is to ensure a smooth transition to the new system by formulating appropriate strategies and mechanisms which may cover changes in the physical infrastructure, human resource, organizational, and instructional concerns, bridging models linking secondary education competencies and the entry requirement of new tertiary curricula, and partnership between government and other entities, along with ensuring the long-term viability of higher education institutions and the alignment of higher education with the new curriculum in basic education. Through the institutional development and innovation grants under the K-12 transition program, the Commission shall provide funding of initiatives and strengthen higher education in their capacity and qualification to respond and remain relevant to local, regional, and national, as well as in global priorities, and ensure the quality and long-term sustainability. It has two main categories, namely institutional development, a top-down approach to achieve higher quality of education and institutional qualifications. The next is institutional innovation, which gives incentives to higher education institutions to add new value to the higher education sector through a bottom-up strategy. Institutional development covers projects undertaken by the higher education institutions that met the minimum qualifications required by the grant. Initiatives under this category may help establish the foundations of innovation as well as support to the higher education institutions in improving its systems, processes, instructional content, and pedagogies to meet their higher standards in order to bring them closer to autonomous and deregulated status, and for their programs to be potential centers of development and centers of excellence. And proud to say, Batangas State University was granted by the Commission on Higher Education as Center of Development and Center of Excellence in various programs, specifically in the engineering programs. The CHED internationalization strategy published in 2016 covers policies and guidelines for the development and institutional internationalization strategies, academic and student mobility, and outbound and inbound transnational education. Underpinning the strategy is the Philippines' commitment to the Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity 2025, to the development of a higher education common space in Southeast Asia, both aiming at facilitating academic and labor mobility through exchange programs and credit transfers and qualifications recognition agreement. So ASEAN as one of the regional organization of nations across Southeast Asian nations, memberring 10 states. So despite of differences of various aspects, still the member states aims for one vision, one identity, one community as one ASEAN, not just only in economic aspects, but also in line with education. So let's try to review the strategic plan of the Commission for the years 2011 to 2016. Given the national government's commitment to transformational leadership that puts education as a central strategy for investing in Filipino people, reducing poverty, and building national competitiveness, and pursuant to RA 7722, shall promote relevant and quality higher education. Higher education institutions and programs are a par with international standards, and graduates and professionals are highly competent and recognized in the international arena. Ensure that quality higher education is accessible to all who seek it, particularly those who may not be able to afford it. Guarantee and protect academic freedom for continuing intellectual growth, advancement of learning and research, development of responsible and effective leadership, education of high-level professionals, and enrichment of historical and cultural heritages, and commit to moral ascendancy that eradicates corrupt practices, institutionalize transparency and accountability, and encourage participatory governance in the Commission subsector. So what are the objectives of the said development plan? Improve relevance of higher education institutions, program systems, and research to respond the trust of the Philippine Development Plan. So the objectives of the higher education in the Philippines is anchored to the Philippine Development Plan. The next is broad access to quality higher education of those who seek it. Upgrade the quality of higher education institutions, programs, and systems in the country towards achieving international standards. What are the programs, activities, and projects of the Commission for the year 2011 to 2016? First is the rationalization of higher education institutions and programs. Under this is the aligning of higher education programs with the national development goals, typology and mapping of higher education institutions and programs, amalgamation of higher education institutions and programs. Next is equality and standards. Under this is the quality assurance projects and quality improvement projects. In quality assurance, this includes programs, monitoring and evaluation, accreditation to comply with the international standards, while in quality improvement projects, this includes the faculty development programs and the higher education institutions management development program. The third is the access to quality higher education. So we have programs for student financial and assistance program, for scholarships, expanded tertiary education equivalency and accreditation program. And we have also ladderized education program and courses. The fourth is the transparent and moral ascendant and efficient and effective management system. This includes governance, reforms in state universities and colleges, simplification of frontline services through IT systems, and we have the Tibay Education. So what is this Tibay Education program? So this has something to do with the good governance in higher education institutions officials. It is also about violation of laws, rules and regulations, and other complaints are acted upon through mediation and conduct a fact-finding investigations for anomalies. The fifth is the organization development. We have the rationalization, modernization, and upgrading of physical plant. So let's try also to review the strategic plan of the Commission on Higher Education for the year 2017 to 2022, which was crafted by the Office of Planning, Research and Knowledge Management of the said commission. So, to address the issue and encourage further research activities, SHED issued the Memorandum Order number 53 series of 2016 and Resolution number 549 2017, which indicate the guidelines for its journal incentive program and identification of recognized research journals. So this has something to do with the support program for our researchers. The Strategic Plan 2017 to 2022 takes off from the Ambition Natin 2040. Following the Executive Number 5 Series of 2016, the administration's 10-point socio-economic agenda, and the Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022, and the most important, the Revolutionary Landmark Law. So what is this Ambition Natin 2040? This tagline, Ambition Natin 2040, is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at the President's 10-point socio-economic agenda, which need to be translated into specific and coherent strategies, policies, and programs at the national and local levels in order to ensure the achievement of the goals. So, as you can see, the goal of the national sector, the fourth in rank, is the quality education. So their goal is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And they expect that by 2030, they ensure equal access for all women and men to affordable and quality technical, vocational, and tertiary education, including university. Another program is the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, or RA 10931, signed by the President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on August 3, 2017, which serves as a fundamental affirmation of the premium that the state places on access and equity to quality education as an inalienable right of all Filipinos. To support that, the Unified Financial Assistance System for Tertiary Education Act, or UNIFAS, also known as Republic Act number 1068, was signed into law in August 15 last year. In particular, the tertiary education subsidy provides a special focus for the poor, underrepresented, and underserved sectors in higher education through subsidies that cover the cost to sustain their engagement and participation in as well as completion of higher education. The strategic plan takes into account the Philippine Human Development Commitments in relation to United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, to the ASEAN 2020, as well as reflections on other local and global imperatives that face Philippine higher education in harmony with the National Vision and Medium-Term Development Plan. The strategic plan aims to contribute to laying a stronger foundation for inclusive growth, a high-trust society, and global competitive economy toward realizing the vision by 2040. Higher education reform agenda formulated in 2011 aimed to address these persisting issues under overarching goal of building the country's human and intellectual capital. In the Philippines, higher education institutions programs are aligned to the national development goals. Aside from encouraging higher education institutions to offer programs that are in demand and responsive to the needs of industry, both domestic and international, SHED supports relevant and responsive research development and extension and gender development programs for higher education institutions. In the face of ASEAN integration, the globalization and economies of the significance of the role of higher education and higher education institutions in the Philippines cannot be underestimated. More than it being the primary overseeing government body, SHED has a vital role. The ASEAN Integration 2015 prompted higher education institutions to do faculty qualifications, accreditation, and curricular review, and upgrading, rendering this imperative in view of mutual recognition agreements. So, internationalization contributes to a number of important policy instruments aligned to the Ambition Nothing 2040 and to the Philippine Development Plan for the year 2017 to 2022. So, the Commission's strategic plan key result areas includes access to equity, excellence and competitiveness, responsive and relevance, good governance, organizational development. In response to UNESCO's Agenda 2021, the Philippine Initiative to Assimilate Education for Sustainable Development in Tertiary Education is initiated in the Commission on Higher Education's Strategic Plan for 2011 to 2016, which contains the roadmap to reform higher education institutions to respond well to the academic pursuit of sustainable development. So, in line with this, as part of the internationalization program, SHED creates partnerships with other international higher educational institutions all over the world. Fostering world-class Philippine universities is a SHED-initiated program or project that aims to ramp up the internationalization initiatives of public universities. It seeks to further derive positively and incentivize the good practices, trust, and programs on internationalization that delivers on fulfilling sustainable goals, not just on education, but the 17 other goals stated in Sustainable Development Goal 2030. So, to end up my discussion, I have here one of the well-quoted quote of our President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. He says, "Education is the single most important legacy that we can bestow upon our youth. It opens doors for countless opportunities that will lead them to their further empowerment, greater success, and the realization of their individual aspirations." With this, Thank you for listening and God bless us all.